The name Admiral Nelson is amongst the most recognized in British history. However, what you might not know is that he was also involved in a scandalous romance that once riveted the attention of the British public and provided a modulum of normalcy in his illustrious life. Emma, Lady Hamilton, was born Amy Lyon in 1765 in Cheshire, England. Her father, a blacksmith, passed away when she was very young, probably around age 2. Because her mother had to make her own way in the world, Emma grew up without either birth parent in her life. She was reared by her grandmother Sarah in Wales until roughly the age of 12. It was not unusual at the time for children her age to have to earn their keep. Emma began her working life first as a maid and governess, but she wanted more. Being an unmarried girl from the wrong side of the tracks wasn't exactly a foundation for success in 18th century England. Emma used her charm and good looks to make up for her lack of polish and social status. By combining her sharp intellect with her drive, she succeeded to a degree no one would have predicted. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this video we will transform Emma Hamilton and Lord Nelson to see how they might have looked in real life. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Here on Mortal Faces, I transform historic portraits to see how individuals we read about might have looked in real life, as well as talk a little bit about them. So thank you for watching, subscribe for more historic recreations, and let me know in the comments who you want to see in real life. Her eventual success was built on a foundation of eyebrow-raising behavior as a young woman. For example, Emma worked a stint in a place called the Temple of Health in the Pall Mall section of London, owned by a quack doctor, James Graham. This enterprise featured something called the Celestial Bed, believed to function as a marital aid for couples who found it difficult to conceive. The bed came with body decor and an electric shock, a novelty. Emma's role was a source of a living set of instructions, offering a hands-on demonstration of the erotic arts. Although the temple managed to stay in business for only about a year, there Emma discovered a taste for the good life. Only around 20 years old, Emma became essentially a cross between a modern-day good-time girl and a professional escort who shocked and scandalized her way around the UK. She had affairs with the great and the good of the land, eventually ending up with Sir William Hamilton, the British envoy to the Kingdom of Naples and a connoisseur of art. Sir William proposed to Emma. As a woman of some experience, she knew how the world worked and recognized the arrangement for what it was, an opportunity to become a woman of status. The two wed, and after a while she even grew sincerely fond of Sir William, describing him in her diary and letters as her best friend and darling husband. Enter Lord Nelson. Emma, now Lady Hamilton, age 28, met Lord Nelson, who was 35, in 1793, and then they met again 5 years later in 98. In this year, France's Napoleon Bonaparte was on his great expedition in Egypt, while Admiral Nelson was in command of the Royal Navy's Mediterranean Squadron, chasing Napoleon ships around the region. In order to defeat the French forces, Nelson needed supplies and logistical support. So he went to Naples, which was one of England's allies in the Mediterranean, to seek Sir William's aid. Nelson, who had yet to achieve legendary status, was initially rebuffed by Hamilton due to a disagreement about how best to proceed. So Emma comes to the rescue with her good friend, the Queen of Naples. Food, water, gunpowder, and all the supplies he required was provided by her, and Nelson was able to sail off to his victory over Napoleon at the Battle of the Nile. Following this victorious campaign, Nelson returned to Naples with a head injury, and this is where Lady Hamilton would nurse him back to health. They fell in love, a genuine love, but both were married. It seems that Admiral Nelson and Lady Hamilton felt a need for each other's lives. She mothered him, provided unconditional love, and gave him a sense of familial belonging he had not known since the death of his natural mother. At the same time, Nelson became something of a father figure to Emma, providing security and protection she had never truly felt throughout her own life, even with Sir William. Eventually, she became fully devoted to Nelson. So, how do you solve a problem like this? Well, after evacuating the Hamiltons and the Neapolitan royal family from Italy away from Napoleon, He was recalled to London, but he would not go without Emma. His popularity and heroics overshadowed his dalliances, so people didn't mind his affair with this woman. Eventually, Nelson and his wife Frances separated, though he still took responsibility for her living expenses.
As long as I live, I shall be your wife.
Meanwhile, Emma and Sir William remained married, but for the most part lived separately. So, over time, Nelson and Emma began to live together, at least as much as they could. Emma would become pregnant and give birth to a daughter named Horatia. Horatia was considered illegitimate, but lived under the story that she was adopted by them. Nelson even went as far as to buy a home for all three of them, Merton Place. Emma and Nelson continued this somewhat awkward and romantic arrangement for several years. Their life together, though scandalous in the eyes of some, was actually rather domestic and happy. For both Nelson and Emma, it was probably the most conventional relationship either had experienced. Living together as a family, they could carry on as best as society would allow. Meanwhile, Napoleon and his forces were building for a rematch. In 1803, Napoleon wanted round 2, so they played cat and mouse for 18 months before culminating with the Battle of Trafalgar. At this point, Nelson was at the height of his popularity. Everyone idolized him. So while on the deck of his flagship HMS Victory, he was struck by a musket ball from a French sharpshooter. He was taken below and, according to the ship's surgeon, kept repeating, "Thank God, I have done my duty," until he could no longer speak, and he died. The entire British nation was in mourning for Nelson, and his state funeral was the stuff of legend. Britain did everything it could to give him what he wanted, but they would not give him his greatest desire. You see, he wanted his wife Emma and his daughter Horatia to be acknowledged and accorded all relevant status, but that was denied. Emma, despite receiving funds from her marriage to Sir William, as well as the deed to Merton Place and £500 a year from Nelson's will, she still ended up in debtor's prison in Calais, France. Emma's life without Nelson was out of control. By some accounts, she developed an addiction to both alcohol and opium, and she died alone in 1815. And that's just a little bit about Emma Hamilton and Lord Nelson. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos. Each of your subscriptions does help this channel grow. It allows me to continue making more content for you. Let me know in the comments if you want to see next. I do make a list of all your suggestions, and I will see you in the next one.